Welcome back to the CHG podcast, everybody.
What's up, guys?
Take two, because it didn't record in before. So, but now,
this
now
time we didn't record the whole fucking podcast before realizing that it wasn't working.
Well, whatever. Well, no, it got me. It just didn't get you.
Yeah. Oh.
Anyways, so welcome back, guys. This is a gaming podcast. So we're actually going to get right into it because we don't want to keep David's wife waiting too long. What are we playing, David? You go first.
Yeah,
Have you been playing anything? You still playing Fallout 4?
Yes. Yeah, of course. I'm on to the Far Harbor DLC.
Ah, yes, the hardest one.
Yeah. It's because of how leveled up I am. I think I'm like level 68 or something like that. What's
the recommended for that DLC?
I have no idea. You can probably look it up while I'm talking, but it is not. It is not 68. Like I've maxed out every special stat. I'm working on all of the other fucking can't remember what they're called. Perks. There we go. Working on getting the perks that I want. I did all of like the Nuka-Cola DLC, so I have their like basically their AK-47, which just fucking melts anything like normal level. And then when I am in trouble, then I have that one gun that I told you about that does burn and bleed damage. And I just faced a legendary Murloc queen, and just like wasn't anything. Went through both of her stages and just destroyed her. Yeah. So like I'm more in because in Far Harbor you have that damaging mist, the radiation mist, and I just wear a hazmat suit the whole time, so I have no armor basically at all because I just don't want to take the rad damage because the rad damage is more damaging than if like a fucking Murloc queen hits me. So yeah, I'm pretty OP. But no, what the exciting thing that I've been doing is that I downloaded an emulator, which is legal. Internet, it's legal. And what I am definitely not doing, which is illegal, so I'm not doing this, is I did not download GameCube games.
Yes.
And they do not include Mario Superstar Baseball. So I have not been playing that. I have not been having just the best time playing, not playing some old games. So that has been fun that never happened. I did not download my wife's favorite game for her, Skies of Arcadia, and she has not been playing that to her heart's content.
Not at all.
I also have not downloaded things like NFL Street 2.
You played that? You played that too?
Oh yeah, I played that.
NFL Street?
I owned a real console from Nintendo and paid like a good person and not a fucking pirate. Anyway, so yeah, Street 2. I'll be getting NBA Street. I will not
Volume
be getting
2. NBA Street Volume 2. Make sure you don't make sure you don't get NBA Street Volume 2
with Dr. J.
Because it's definitely not the best one.
It is the best one, but
it's definitely not the best. No.
You should play it on a actual GameCube,
on actual hardware, okay,
or PlayStation
kids?
2,
or Xbox, I think maybe.
And they also have a Wii emulator, which is hard. Also, which is a lot harder to not actually play Wii games on it because of like all the motion controls. Like, there's way more like forward, backwards, tilt, and everything than there are buttons on my Xbox controller. So some games I just can't do, but any of the games that use the buttons, which I'm not doing, were to do it on the emulator, it's a lot easier to do. But anyway, that's a long way to say that. So I've been not doing that. That's been not great.
My brother still plays NFL Street, by the way.
It's a great game
because he also does not emulate on his completely not jailbroken Wii, and he plays the shit out of that. I don't know if it's 1 or 2, maybe 3 actually. He played all 3 of them and loved all 3 of them like equally, but I don't know which one he's on right now. He still plays. I just can't. He told me
2 is my favorite.
He doesn't even play like modern games anymore because he's so happy playing these old ass games on his Wii. Like, he's just totally content with that.
It's
like,
great. I'm gonna not finish every like level of Mario Baseball, and then I'm not going to download Super Strikers, and I'm not going to beat that, and then I'm not going to download the basketball one, and I'm not going to play that.
Man,
So
NBA Street Volume 2, man. Oh my
with Dr.
gosh.
J, just
Oh, all of them, man. There's so many
he's not
good
called
ones.
Dr. J, but you know it's Dr. J. It's the Afro dude.
Yeah, Julius Irving. He's called Dr. J in the game.
He is called Dr. J in the game. I didn't think.
Yes.
I thought they had him as something
I'm
else.
almost certain. No, oh, you're wait, no. Yeah,
No, I think
Stretch.
Stretch.
His name
Yes,
is Stretch. That's his name.
but
Stretch.
it's absolutely Julius Irving, Dr. J.
But yes, it is Dr. J. He is the man. That whole game is phenomenal. And NFL Street, I only played the first one. And I never beat it because it was really hard. Like, it's not
easy.
It gets so hard. Like for me, this is why I still think that the Minnesota Vikings are a good team, and that the Green Bay Packers are a phenomenal team, and that the Dolphins are a phenomenal team. Because in that at the time, NFL Street, all three of those teams were like the goats. They were the goats at the time, and for that game at the time, like their ratings were off the charts, and they were. I could never beat them. Even with cheat codes, I couldn't beat them. Like max stat characters, infinite game breakers, no limit on your boost. I still couldn't win.
His weed addiction didn't hamper him in NFL Street. Probably
not
helped
at
him.
all. Not like okay. Here's how bad I had it. Okay, these are just cheat codes in the game, which I don't know if there are any. I had this cheat device called a code breaker. Shout out to you if you know what that is.
Dude, that's before Game Shark.
No,
Game
Shark before that.
I thought it was okay.
Well, actually, here's the thing. I don't know how long Codebreaker's lineage goes because when I found the thing at GameStop, because GameStop used to sell those back in the day, it was my first time ever seeing this before. Codebreaker, I'd never seen it before in my life before this, and how it worked was I mean, maybe the GameShark works similarly, but like, yeah, you put in the Codebreaker disc first in your PS2, start it up. It takes you to the Codebreaker, software. It has preloaded with all these games, and then it has cheats that like you would never get anything anywhere else, like stupid cheats, max money, infinite boost, game breakers all day every day, and then you choose the ones you want. And then you press this button that pops the disc out of the tray, and you replace it with your game, put it back in, start the game up with the cheats. But there you go. Even with that, couldn't beat the Vikings, man. The Vikings were just too good. The Dolphins were too good. So I still think to this day that they're great teams, even when they're not, because I can never get that out of my head. The trauma in the horror of fighting them, it's one of the few games I've never beaten. One of the few, because I'm just like I don't care.
But what games are you trying to beat right now?
I am playing 2 games right now, and they both suck. The first one is Monster Energy Supercross 3, and it's supposed to be fun and easy, just a nice little. I mean, it's not really fun per se. Everyone who plays the game know what they're getting into. It's just a motocross game from Milestone SRL, which they're like the motorbike guys nowadays. They've been making motorcycle games forever. They make the MXGP series. I think they make the Ride series. Whatever. And everyone knows what they're getting into. It's very repetitive. It's just you just do races on all the official circuits and the 250 West, 250 East, and the 450. You just race and you race. There's not much more to it. It's not robust like any of your racing games with all these different modes and shit. You know what you're getting into, okay? But this game, and I keep forgetting, this is not a game you just jump into, okay? This is where the real Dark Souls begins, okay? It is the hardest racing game I think I've ever fucking played. As far as like getting into it, you cannot just jump in and play this game. Because unlike a racing game, and unlike many arcade motorcycle games, it's trying to be all realistic and shit. You have to factor in physics. You have to factor in body weight. You have to factor in the mud. You have to factor in all the rhythm of the jumps and shit. You got to factor all that in. The game doesn't tell you any of that. That's the bullshit part about this game. That's why I hate it so much. I know nowadays people like the arguments have been about like, too much hand holding with tutorials and blah, blah, blah. And like Dark Souls is amazing and Elden Ring is great because they don't tell you shit. Got to figure it out on your own. That works when your basic mechanics are so fundamental that you don't need to. And then the more deeper shit is what's hidden that you have to discover on your own. And that's fun because that's not fundamental. That's like, oh, I figured out this combination. If I put that with that, this crazy shit happens. Or like, gotta learn the enemies. Cool. Gotta learn what to do. Great. Okay, fine. This is not a fundamental type of racing game at all. No other type of racing game do you have to worry about the physics of your driver, of your rider, and the motorcycle, and worry about different techniques to go over the jumps and the rhythms of your jumps. No other racing game do you have to do that. And so, you better be able to hear me, David. Don't take those off. Can you take? Oh, you have wire in. You have a wire in. Fine. I have to vent. I have to vent to just you guys now. He has to go check his doggies. Okay, so people. So there's a couple techniques in this game that help you go over all the bumps in the most effective way possible, which keeps your momentum, which keeps your speed up across all the jumps and makes it to where you can land the jumps at a better angle, at a better pace, and to where you can maintain your speed for as long as possible to keep either ahead or to catch up to the opponents. And the game doesn't tell you a damn thing about any of these techniques. The tutorial is basically a race. It's just a race, a regular ass race. It gives you like the controls on the right side of the screen, and that's it. There you go. It doesn't tell you about hole shots and how to do it. Well, it kind of tells you, but it's really shitty, and how to do it properly and why they're important. It doesn't tell you how the timing for the hole shot will change every fucking time you do a race. Doesn't tell you that. Doesn't tell you about what's apparently called endos, which I don't even know what that means. But essentially, it's to where when you go on a jump, you basically nosedive your bike towards the jump, and it allows it in the game, at least. I don't know about real life, probably not works in real life, but in the game, when you do that, for some real reason, it will allow you to, it tilts the bike up so that your back wheel doesn't clip on the jump, on like the mound or whatever, so where it will stop your speed. It doesn't tell you that. So nosediving like that keeps it to where you'll land more at the, smoothly where the jump, and you can keep your speed and momentum to go on the next one. Doesn't tell you that. Also doesn't tell you about preloading your jumps, which I had to harken back to preloading back on ATV Offer Fury 2 on the PS2, because that game was all about awful on preloading your jumps, because there was a little bar for it. I didn't think about that, like, I wonder if that works here. And it does. Does the game tell you? No. So it doesn't tell you any of that, which will help you get better air to make them longer jumps. So I had to learn that. I had to figure that out on my own. It doesn't tell you anything. And so I'm like, but this is a game that needs it. It's a very unique type of racing game because it's not arcadey. Well, it kind of is, but like it's more sim than most of your other arcade racing games or motorcycle games. I played other motorbike games before. This one is by far the most realistic, and you have like it doesn't tell you anything about the importance of weight and shifting your body and these techniques of your bike. None of that. What I did was, after the tutorial race and I got my ass handed to me, I just went to the challenges. Because I figured I can learn and get used to the mechanics through challenges without other racers around me, and then maybe I'll pick up what to do. And when it comes to the scrubs, don't even get me started about the scrubs. Okay, a scrub basically what they call it when the bike tilts like horizontally or perpendicular to the ground. They do a little cool whip ass shit. Yeah, they do that. That's called a scrub apparently, and they do that because it allows you. It limits your time in the air, so you can be on the ground faster and start accelerating. It's not by much. It's by like a tenth of a second, but obviously it matters for a race. Yeah. Well, the game the tutorial shows you where to move the sticks, but it doesn't tell you about like how you need to move it and then bring them back in the same air. It also doesn't tell you that you need to do it. You want to prep up the scrub or the analog sticks right before you do the jump, because you can't just do it in the air. You can't land in the air then do it, and because it won't do it. You need to prep it beforehand, right before you get the jump, and then move the sticks back the way they were or oppositely to bring your bike back down. It doesn't tell you that. It just says move sticks left or outward and then inward. That's it. What? Doesn't tell me anything. So like I had to go through the scrubs. I had to look it up online to figure out what the fuck I was supposed to do, because I could not understand how to. And the challenges section for scrubs doesn't tell you how to do it. So I'm just like, how do you fuck up tutorial. Like they must have just assumed the only people playing this are just the motocross hardcore like crowd. Like they must, because otherwise, why? I think the later games, because there's 6 of these motherfucking games, which I am going to play all 6, but there are 6 of these pieces of shit. And I think the later ones actually did finally incorporate a more robust tutorial. And I hope that's the case, because holy shit, these first 3 games don't tell you a damn thing. When Travis and I played the first one on the channel some years ago, I think I might have deleted the videos though. But when we played it, we lost like every race. We could not win for the life of us. And I think I called the video like the Dark Souls of racing games or something like that. I think I titled it that because I was like, why is this so fucking hard? That's the first game I'm playing. We're on a great start. Second game is Watch Dogs. I am playing Watch Dogs on PS3, and holy shit. Holy shit.
How are the puddles? How are the puddles?
Oh, I haven't looked at the puddles.
Are the puddles good?
I haven't looked at the puddles, but I'm sure Spider-Man's are better somehow. Puddlegate 2023, we're back. I will say though,
the puddles were a big thing in Watch Dogs too. Like it's more known for I guess the whole trailer versus the actual game.
I'm not even worrying about that. We're not even going to talk about that because I already know. Everyone knows. Okay, I get it. They showed a PC build using a PS4 controller or some shit like that. It was obviously just an unrealistic vertical slice of the game that we saw at the E3 2012 or whatever year that was. And obviously the console versions did not hold up to that. I get it. I don't care about that. That's not even what I care about. I knew going in that it wasn't going to be that, and I was not expecting it. The game still sucks. So, but I will say I'm playing on PS3, okay? And so I will play it on PS4 just to see, right? But for now, the textures are horrendous. For a game that came out in, I think it was 2014, 2013, 2014, either one of those years. For a game that came so late into the PS3 360 cycle, and where the developers knew how to pull everything out of those systems by that point, right? Even the PS3, which, yes, I mean, it has the cell infrastructure, which was hard to work with, but they figured it out by then. I mean, you can look at Naughty Dog. They fucking figured it out with Last of Us, which still looks good, by the way. The textures are so bad. It's basically potato mode. For some of the NPC textures, character models, it is basically potato mode. And I don't remember the last time I saw a game, even on the PS3 era.
So, real quick, detective work on CSG. Last of Us on the PlayStation 3 came out June 14th,
2013.
2013.
Yes, I remember.
Watch Dogs came out May 36, 2014.
36?
26.
There we go. Okay.
2014.
Okay, so it was 2014. All right.
So almost a year.
Almost a year later. And the texture, I mean, okay, I get it. A lot of like your superfluous textures that you have in your sceneries and stuff like that aren't going to be as detailed as like your characters and stuff. I get that. That's totally fine. Like even Last of Us, like some of the garbage bags that you will find across the ground and that you walk around. Yeah, they're not the most defined. 2013, I'm sure they were great. But yeah, I mean, it's not the most defined thing in the world, but it's good. It's fine. But some of the fixtures that I've seen on these NPC models, because in the game, I don't know if you ever tried playing the game, but in the game,
back in the day,
you can use your phone, to hack random people to get money out of them and stuff like that, right? But it shows you a picture of a person's face. I don't know why. I would rather them not, but it shows you a picture of their face for whatever reason. It has no consequence. 90% of the faces that I see have almost no textures at all. And then the ones that do have some more textures still look ugly as shit. Like, I'm like, why did you bother with this when it looks this bad? Just take it out. Give me just say like they can be hacked for what, and I hack it. Like, I don't need to know the face. Like, leave the faces out of this, especially when they look this bad. And then I was playing the street game, the cup, I think they call it. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But it's like you have like the 3 cups, balls in the middle. They moves the cups. You got to decide what cup the ball is in, whatever that's called. Comment below if you know what it's called. I'm not going to read it. But I was playing one of them. It was just in a city, and I happened to just look in the ground. They had like leaves on the ground, right? The texture on the leaves just stuck to the ground was so bad. I almost was thinking, you know what? I'm not one to be the guy to be like, oh man, this looks like PS2 era graphics, because I'm like, okay, guys, let's calm down a second. All right, you guys obviously haven't played a PS2 game in a while, but those textures look legit like a late PS2 game. Like I could totally see back like in like a 2007, very end of the cycle of that generation cycle. I could totally see those textures being in a PS2 game of the same ilk. Like I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I did see that in Ratchet and Clank to that same level of quality. And I was just like, what? This game came out in 2014. Why do these graphics look so bad? And again, I'm not one to care about graphics all that much. And I'm not caring about the fact that the E3 demo we saw was nothing compared to what we actually got. But it's like that is just too much. That is just ridiculously poor, like just terrible. Now again, it could just be the PS3 version, and I'm very curious to find out when I play the PS4 one. But even beyond the graphics, the game still sucks because it can't decide what it wanted to be. It cannot decide what it wants to be. The go-to is the GTA clone, which is valid, but it's like it's more than that. Like sometimes it wants to be.
It's GTA mixed with Assassin's Creed mixed
I
with
was actually going to say,
yeah.
like, it wants to be GTA with all the mayhem you can do, right? Or just a Rockstar game in general, with the fact that it does allow you to create all this mayhem if you want to. Um, but then it also wants to be fucking Forza with this driving, which you do a lot of driving in this game, a lot. With all the side missions and shit that you do, and also traversing across the town because because the fast travel system they have in this game is so shitty. That it's sometimes better to just to get on a bike and just travel across the city, because the game world is actually not that big. Honestly, it's not that big. It's very dense, but it's not very big. So I actually just do that most of the time. Just get on the bike and just travel rather than do all the fast travel, because the loading times are sometimes god awful. So sometimes I'm thinking like, why is this game trying to be Forza all of a sudden? And then I'm thinking, why is this game all trying to be Splinter Cell for a sec for no reason, but just high tech version Splinter Cell? Because the stealth sections that there are a lot of in the game, require you to use your technological gadgets to like do things and fuck around with the enemies if you can and stuff, which a lot of times don't really work all that well because you're too far away from the enemies. Um, yeah. So I'm like, why is this game trying to do all these different things but not do any of them right? And then so people like to talk about the story wasn't really good. I'm only in Act 2 because I've just taken care of the side stuff before I get to the main mission stuff. So I'm only in Act 2 of 5. And the story is pretty like hum ho and doesn't really deal all that much so far yet with the concept of watchdogs. The side content deals more with the watchdogs aspect than the main story so far. Just putting that out there. But I will say, I think they almost had something going with, because it's all about main character Aiden, he honestly thinks he's Batman. It's like when a loser thinks he's Batman and tries to actually be Batman for real. Um, he lost his niece. He was driving the car. I guess there was a hit put on them for no reason, at least for now, for some no reason, some odd reason. He seemed like a regular dude before this. Maybe he wasn't. I don't know yet. But he got a hit put on him. Some dudes came out of nowhere, shot up his car, killed his niece in the process. And Aiden thinks he's to blame. He's to blame. And because there was a really good moment, in my opinion, where you watch this memory of him with his sister at the graveyard for his niece, and he was, his sister wants him to stop because she knows that he's on this vendetta quest to get revenge, and like, just stop, because you're only putting us more at risk by doing this. And he's so racked with guilt and honestly thinks that it's his fault, which I do think is kind of dumb. I hate people when people do that for no reason. But he's like, it shows some more depth to his character a bit, and I was like, we could have just went with this. I mean, it's not Watchdog specific, like the concept, but I like this story better. Like examining the man behind this, get more personal. I liked that, and I hope more of it comes. I'm only in Act 2, like I said. But instead of this stupid vendetta thing, I rather have it to more focus on the fact that he's like ruining his family, because he's already put his nephew at risk now. His sister has been kidnapped by a dude he used to work with, that wants to go work together with him again, but he didn't want to. So he was like, well, fuck you, I'm gonna steal your sister then. And so he did. So it was like, it'd be cool to see that, right? Like this emotional impact and like how he's actually being more destructive than he is constructive by trying to get revenge. I like that. And I hope that's what happens later. That story sounds way more intriguing. And also, Aiden's voice is really cool, but his character model does not match the voice at all. Like his voice is so gravely like a Batman voice, and I like it. But when you look at Aiden, you're like, how does that voice come out of that face? Because it doesn't match. Anyway, so that's Watch Dogs. I'll keep you guys updated on it. I'm gonna keep playing it. It's not really necessarily a hard game. It can be frustrating for dumb reasons, but it is what it is. I want to beat it as fast as I can so that I can play the PS4 version to see if that actually is the better one. I mean, it's supposed to be. The Metacritic reviews are way better, so we'll find out. The mystery continues. So, David, we're going to continue on with our fun question for the day.
Yeah.
We should have a little question to start things off. It's a funny one. So I told you about this earlier. Hope we had time to think about something. Probably not though. We're going to talk about a game. Like the question is, what upcoming game, no matter how out in the pipeline it is, but we do know that it should be coming out at some time. What upcoming game that's due to release at some point do we actually hope that it fails? Like we're for any reason. So it's negative, but it's also funny, and I wanted to see if David had any possible answers for it.
I mean, I was thinking about it for a little bit, and I don't think I necessarily have a specific game because, like, we talked earlier about the Overwatch controversy, which we're not going to touch on. But
controversy.
Like I would love to see that game fail, obviously, just because of it, just with everything around it. If you don't know about it by now, just look into it.
Just type in Overwatch 2 PvP or PvE, and you'll get everything you need to know.
Yeah, and then you need to know. So like that, but like overall, if we're just gonna pick anything, I would love for the swing, and in that kind of vein, I would love for the swing to go back just for like online only free to play games to fail. Like everybody, like it. I would rather have free to play games than free to play game mechanics and paid games. I think that's a step worse. But I think the shift to free to play games being like the norm thing, or just games as a service model. We talked about it before in the past. Any games as a service model.
Yeah.
Even the good ones, I want them all to fail. I hate.
So you want Apex to fail too?
Yeah, sure. If it gives us more,
but not Apex. You love Apex.
I haven't played Apex in forever,
but you love it.
I did love it when I was playing.
It's going to be the only bit of Titanfall you're ever going to get.
Yeah, that's true. If it means more good single player story or just story based games, then I'm happy with it. I want to go back, and maybe it's because I'm getting old, so I don't have time for online games.
We're boomers.
But I want story games. I want games that I can get invested into, but taken in small chunks. So yeah, I just want.
We want a game that ends.
A
game that ends.
Exactly.
You know what's funny?
So that's what I say. I don't have a specific one, only because I literally don't know what's.
So damn, you want a whole genre. You want a whole genre to fail. Which I'm
so out of it.
You're not alone. You're not alone though, bro.
I'm so out of it because I've just been in school. I haven't really been paying attention to what games are even coming out. But if it's an online only game,
it's funny.
That one's it.
The Bloodlines Masquerade actually announced this week that it's shutting down, or at least the developers no longer.
Sure.
It's no longer.
That makes sense.
It's no longer. I
was excited for that game.
No. Not the Masquerades 2, the single player stuff. No, they launched I think a battle royale style game last year. I forget what they called it, but it was in the Vampires Bloodlines universe.
Oh, okay, yeah, I kind of remember.
Yeah, it came out last year.
I want the single player one.
That's still in the works. That's still in the works. That's still in the development hell. But they launched a battle royale last year, and it's already the devs announced this week that it's no longer going to be supported. The servers will stay up, but they're no longer doing anything with it. Only a year afterwards. So here's the thing: it's taken a long time for devs to finally figure the shit out, but it's just like because the industry just flocked to the live service model, it became saturated immediately. And so it's so weird. This industry never fucking learns because this happens all the time, right? Everybody's trying to get a piece of the pie, but 90% of them fail. So it made me think, it also maybe, but it kind of leads into the other thing I was thinking about was what happened to just like this general online online portions of games, like like how it used to be back in the day when we talk about boomer gamers, right? You had your game that you had the good the good or maybe not so good single player, but then you had the multiplayer, right? So like for your Halos, CODs, Battlefields, like you got your single player fix if you were about that life, but then for everyone else, or after you were done with it, you go to the online part, right? And that's all it was. It was just the online part, and you paid for extra map packs, or maybe sometimes they would throw some skins out or whatever, or some emotes if you want to get fancy and stupid, and that was it. I was thinking, like, what happened to that? Like, that just evolved into the games as a service model.
Because one makes money and costs less.
But it's funny because the online multiplayer
doesn't make money after the sale.
No, but the online multiplayer would make the money. That's the thing I'm trying to get at. That used to
but here's the thing. You still have a portion of the game that costs more that does not make money after the initial sale.
Man, it's just...
So by a cost-effective only lens, you cut the thing that doesn't make you money that costs the most money.
But most of these games fail anyways, so they lose money regardless.
If they fail and they spend a lot of money on the single-player game and they still fail, that's an even bigger loss. If all they have to do is make the multiplayer version, which yes, still costs a lot of money, but still not nearly as much money as a single player game would cost.
Not necessarily.
Or one with an element.
Not necessarily, because
you got to pay story writers.
Some of the single players,
pay voice actors. You got to
voice actors don't get paid. So hey, who cares about them? They don't even get paid much. So
but they still get paid. I'm saying it's easier to bite a bullet on something you proportionally wise.
Well, it's going to get to the point where no one's going to play them, because we saw this. Speaking of online multiplayer, we saw this with that trend, right? When Call of Duty made that the thing back in the day, right? In the mid 2000s with online, COD and Halo, right? And online multiplayer was the fucking shit, right? Not for me, but for like 90% of the gamers in the world, that was the shit, right? And every game thought that they had to have an online portion to their game, whether it that's why we got a tactile multiplayer for Tomb Raider. That's why we got it for Batman Arkham Origins. You could even argue that Uncharted got it because of that, although Uncharted was admittedly pretty good.
Yeah.
And even Last of Us is factions mode. A lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people liked it. I played it. I've only played it for the trophies, but I played it and it wasn't half bad, but I didn't need it. No one really talks about it anymore because it's not what it matters, but you can even argue that's why they got it. So like, every game out there they had to have it, but like most of the time when no one would play it, right? And it's like, did they really think that this would take off? Rogue Warrior fucking had one. Remember Rogue Warrior had one, and we tried to go on the servers. We tried to see
Call of Duty.
We tried to see if we might be able to get matched up. We didn't, but we tried. Even that one had a multiplayer component, and for some of these games that I was personally interested in, or I'll be like, or curious about, like, I wonder what the trophy list is about, maybe I can go play it, even if it is a piece of shit. Sometimes for these lists, like Rogue Warrior, half the trophy list is for online. And I'm like, how did you think for 1 second people would play it this much? Like, it's just... And even games that were shooters, like Crysis, for instance, like, yeah, they had multiplayer, you would think, yeah, that kind of makes some sense. Even those didn't last that long. Like maybe a year or two after release, but that's it. So it's like, the whole industry flocks to this. 90% of them do shit, and they never learn their lesson, because then they do it again with Battle Royale, and the same thing happens. And they do it with game lives as a service, same thing happens. And it's just so funny. The industry just never works.
I don't know if Rogue Warrior's multiplayer was the real deal, but you know who I know was the real deal?
Whose was the real deal?
Richard Market Kinko. He was the real deal.
Huh?
You don't remember that?
Wait, is that the dude who it was based off of?
Yeah, the GameStop interview. I don't know if the game's the real deal.
But that's what he said. Because he knew the game sucked.
He didn't know a single fucking thing about the game.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
you know.
Oh well.
Anyway.
Anyways,
But
yes.
what your game? Let's get on to it. We got to get on to it.
Crash Rumble piece of shit, whatever the fuck it's called. I hope that game goes to hell. I fucking hate the fact that they're taking my Crash and turning into some variation of a, talk about game live as a service or whatever the fuck it's supposed to be, a MOBA or I don't even know what they're calling it. I hope it dies. I hope it is dead on arrival. I hope it does nothing for Activision. I hope it fails. And not just because I'm scared that if it does, that's what they're going to do going forward. I mean, that sucks too. But it's just, I am already pissed at Crash 4. And they're using the same art style. And I'm already mad at them about that because I don't like the art style. And I will say that on my dying day. I don't care what you say, David. It sucks. And it's not my Crash. Hashtag not my Crash. And so they're already pissing me off with that. And then they're like, Crash, platformers have always been great. Crash 4, admittedly as bad as it was, to me, it still sold really well. It reviewed somehow really well. I don't know what game they were playing. But so but regardless, it did good numbers for them. So they're like, oh yeah, and the old Crashes did great numbers back in the day. Not the spinoffs, but talking about the main trilogy. And then Crash Nitro Kart did amazing when that was remade. Good, great. Trilogy remake was great. Sold well. Like, you know what we need? We need a MOBA, a Crash MOBA for no reason because people think they like Crash Bash. You don't like Crash Bash. It wasn't good because it wasn't made by Naughty Dog. It was made by somebody else, and it's not good. It is the most repetitive piece of shit you've ever played. It is actually not a good Mario knockoff. It's probably the best, but then again, all the competitors in that group are also all bad. Don't at me about that. This is the best one though, but it's still not good. So you were like, okay, we'll reimagine Crash Bash.
Xbox Game Party was pretty good.
What the fuck is Xbox? No, oh, you're talking about another Mario Party thing.
Yeah.
Didn't play it,
Yeah.
can't speak to it. But we're talking about the established ones based off of characters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because Sonic did it, Spyro didn't do it, which is great for. I don't think Spyro did it. I hope they didn't do it. But like Sonic did it, it was garbage. I've seen other various weird ones, and none of them are good. And Crash is not really great either. I don't care what you say to me in the comments. Yell at me. I don't care. Not good. They're like, let's reimagine it. But for modern audiences, because we all want another MOBA or a live service game or whatever the hell we're calling it, because I don't even know what they're calling it. And I hate it. I hated it as soon as I saw it. And I didn't watch. I think I watched a video on it. I've seen some gameplay of it. I don't know why I did because I knew I wasn't going to like it. And I don't like it. I hope it dies. I hope it fails miserably. I hate this game. And I don't know what's coming out. And I hope it never comes out. I hope it goes in development hell for years and it gets canceled and it dies. I don't know. I've never felt this betrayed. Crash 4 already betrayed me. And now this is not like it's like a slap in the face. And I'm like, what are you doing to my Crash? This was my baby. I love Crash. I love Crash so much. Like,
comes out in a month and 3 days.
A month and 3 days? It can suck my dick in a month and 3 days. Hope it dies. I hope it dies. I hope it lasts as long as the Vampires Masquerade game does and is dead in a year. That's what I hope. And I hate that they did this to my Crash. Give me back.
Anyway, before RJ goes on for the next 20 minutes, rant and rave.
Oh my gosh, I'm so mad.
What's our main topic?
Oh my gosh.
And then I'll rant and rave about this, and you can calm down.
Oh my, there's no calming me down. I'm gonna be so upset all day. Okay, so for those of you who might have known, last week, Uncle Phil Spencer had an interview, a very candid interview, some might say. There's also a video version, so you can watch it on YouTube or wherever the fuck, or you can read about it later on any website or whatever. And he was just basically talking about various things, all Xbox related, and it was very sad, to say the least. It was a very sad interview. It was a bit of a bummer. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, it was a bit of a bummer for everything that he talked about. It was a bit of a bummer. I'll probably find a link below, either a video or an article that really details it, or at least gets the highlights, and put it in the description below so you can take a gander yourself if you haven't already. But cliff notes here. We're going to go over cliff notes because there's just so much to go over. The first thing was that he basically he legit said that there was no universe where Starfield will be an 11 out of 10 game, which you can take a few different ways. You can go the more direct route about him. He's just saying like, oh, he just thinks Starfield won't be a good game, or it's like, no, it's just it will never be to what everyone wants it to be, which everyone wants it to be the Xbox's killer app, right? And he's like, no, it is not going to be that. It will never be that. It's kind of like how, like, if Half-Life 3 came out, people suspect that it'll never come out now
Yeah,
because of the fact
I
that it will
think
never meet people's expectations.
I think that's more it. Like I think that it could still be the killer app.
I hope
Like it could
it is.
still be the reason to have an Xbox.
I hope it does.
I think it more is that we live in a world
We live in
today.
We live in a world.
We live in a world where you can say like the most black and white thing in your opinion that's ever like, oh, like this is absolutely like correct.
Yeah, no disputing, absolutely this.
No disputing, and then you put it on the internet and there's gonna be a raging comment section. And not only just trolls, which there will be tons, but there will be genuine people on both sides that freak the fuck out about whatever you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can be like, you know, the sky is blue, and you'll be like, well, actually, the sky is not blue. It just reflects. See, you're gonna have some people that be like, no, the sky is. Oh no, the sky just reflects the ocean color, and then you'll have people like, no, that's not what actually happened. Oh, no. You're gonna get like tons of fucking comments.
You're gonna get the physics nerds in here, man.
And then you're gonna get the one expert that actually knows the fucking answer, and it's just like, well, okay, guys, I'm a whatever. This is why the sky is actually that appears the color blue, and then everybody's gonna be like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Because they'll be like, so well, yeah, everyone can say that they're an expert online, and then no one will believe that.
So what if you went to school?
Everyone went to school.
Joe Rogan told me,
oh god,
that I can eat horse worm medicine, and the sky is green. So. And then, so anyway, so I think that's what he means. I think that he's just like, look, and I think we've talked about this earlier. Xbox in particular, well, I guess I shouldn't say Xbox because it wasn't them before this, but like, Bethesda in particular has a bad habit of like talking about a game, like announcing a game, and then being like, it'll come out someday, and then you get this perpetual hype motion going, and then the game comes out and it's Fallout, even at best Fallout 4, and it's just like, yeah, it's a good game. Again, like I said, I'm playing it at the second time and I'm enjoying it a lot more than I enjoyed it the first time because my expectations the first time were way too high. And I have a pretty good, like, I get overhyped. We talked about that before, but I don't get super overhyped. So I think that's what he was talking about. RJ would prep me before because I hadn't heard about it at all. He had at least saw the article and kind of heard some discussion about it. There was also this discussion in other podcasts and stuff that like, oh, look at Spencer talking, now Xbox people have no reason to buy, no reason to justify their purchase, and people who are thinking about console have no reason to buy the Xbox at all. I think that's all speculation. I think he would have to be like suicidal or doesn't want his job anymore for that to be the actual things he said or the actual purpose for what he said. I just think that Phil has been real pretty much the entire time he's had this position. And I think that he's just being real about where Xbox is at. Hey, we don't have the games yet. It's taking a lot longer for these acquisitions that we made to get us the games that we will have one day. So we have not met our expectations. We haven't met the gamers' expectation. And I think that in the article, because again, neither one of us have seen it, he probably owns up to that fact. I fully believe that Phil is someone who would do that. But that being said, there's still plenty of reasons to get an Xbox. I'm an Xbox stan. I love my Xbox, and I'll fight for in that non-console war. I'll be on the front lines of that. But I think all this is saying, and again, and what RJ said earlier is apparently this is getting out into like the bigger conversation, and I just want to say, You all know.
Your boy been talking about it.
I've been talking about this. Apparently, now it's getting popular to talk about Xbox transitioning out of the console market and into software/services only platform. Something I have been talking about for how many years, RJ? Like 3 at least. Like pretty much since the launch
since
of
Game Pass.
Game Pass. From our first conversation about Game Pass, I was like, bro, this is where it's heading. This is their plan. This is what they're gonna do. And so like I've been on this.
Yeah.
What was the other thing that you said they're also talking about that I've been talking about too for a while? Anyway, point is,
let me try to talk for a bit. I might be able to regas my memory. So let's back up a bit.
I don't think this is to end my thought. I don't think that it is doomy gloomy as what personalities are talking about, as what Microsoft is thinking, or even probably what Phil actually said in this interview.
Okay, I think David and I should do a little homework between now and the next podcast.
Probably.
Let's both, not together, but let's go ahead, because it's 40 minutes. You're going to have to set aside a little bit of time. But listen to the interview, right? And watch or listen to it, and then we could pick apart, because we didn't have enough time to watch it yet. So immediately, we apologize for that. But it's not speculation. It's all from this is a real interview that he did. We'll come back next week with with a more understood opinion. There's that cat again. With a more understood opinion on what was said and how Phil's demeanor was. Oh, there he is. The loudest.
This is a way to keep him quiet.
The loudest cat in existence.
If I'm petting him, he should be somewhat quiet.
Yes. So special guest from the cat. I'll put it in the description. So yeah, we're gonna watch the interview. We're gonna watch the interview and pick apart, what he's exactly said, and then also get a gauge for how he was feeling. Yeah, he also could have just been down, because Xbox has been getting kicked. They
were going through some stuff.
Xbox is still getting kicked. I mean, they got a W from the EU actually approving of the merger with Activision. So that's a good W on their part.
Just keep in mind, guys, this $1 billion company has been having some rough times. Okay, it's having some rough times.
Hey, but Spencer is just a man. Okay, Spencer is a man, and he has
this
feelings.
$1 billion employee of this $1 billion company. He's having some rough times.
Hey, he can have feelings. He's not. No matter how much money you have, you're still a human being, okay?
His mansion in Los Angeles, it's just a little bit colder tonight, guys.
I hope it's in Washington, because obviously Microsoft.
Actually, it's probably Washington.
Yeah. He probably. I hope it's right next to Bill's over in Medina.
Bill's got his own fucking island, so I doubt it.
Does he? Oh,
yeah.
Cool. Anyways, we're gonna move on. Okay, I'm gonna continue here. Dave, stop distracting me. So. Yeah, I think that'll help us figure things out a bit more. But what I do know is that he did say verbatim that Starfield will never be an 11 out of 10 game. And I do know from clip notes that he didn't outright say, like, Xbox owners don't have a reason to justify their purchase, and that we don't want new people to buy an Xbox. He was basically saying, though, was that how, in a way, through different means and verbal acrobatics, that Xbox doesn't have, the ecosystem we try to create, the strategy they tried to do with the Xbox's launch with the Series X, and then also incorporating it with the previous Xbox family, did not work.
That's the thing.
It did not work the way they wanted it to work. But also pointing out, which I think is an important fact, he was basically saying, I forget exactly how he said it, but he was saying that we kind of already lost this console race from the get-go, because it gets defined very early on, and it was actually defined with the PS4. And they have never been able to recover since. They were not able to bounce back like how the PS3 eventually bounced back towards the end of that console generation, because everyone loves to say that 360 beat them, and they did, but the margin is actually much smaller than people think it is, because the PS3 bounced back hard towards the last like 3-4 years of its like from 2006 to 2009. It was a tough. Oh man, those were rough years for me, man. Those were rough years. Those days I don't ever want to relive. I was getting teased and picked on and everything. But from 2010 to 2014, Sony fucking came back hard, so hard, and they actually brought that console gap between. I think it's just a few million units difference between the two. So they came. Oh, nice tail. They came back real strong. But unfortunately, with the PS4, Xbox One generation, PS4 came out the game strong because Xbox shot themselves in the fucking foot, but they never bounced back. Whereas PlayStation was able to, and because people are habitual and they're social, and they're going to stick with what they like, what they're comfortable with, and wherever their people are at. Since everyone stuck with PlayStation the whole generation, and Xbox did not give them a reason to switch over. When the PS5, Xbox Series X came out, they just stuck with what they got, because there, again, was no real reason to switch over to Xbox. We were like, well, there's no real reason to go over to Xbox as a PlayStation owner, so I'm going to stick with the PlayStation. So, and if they didn't have either, if most people were on PlayStation, which more often they probably were, they went over there to meet with their people. So they felt part of the community still. They don't want to be ostracized and be weirdos like I was back in 2007 and get the other console that no one played. So he was basically saying that in so many ways about how it's already been lost, but it doesn't. But it's interesting though. What makes it such why I think part of the reason why people are saying it's such a sad interview, they're kind of like, man, it really sucks. It kind of feels like it kind of sucks being Xbox owners, because yeah, it's one thing to say that like, yeah, we haven't been able to regain the steam, but he also had nothing to say about what we have in the pipeline.
I can see that.
That's the sad part. Like, you bought like 10 studios, bro. Like in the last 2 years. Like, even if the games aren't ready, which is fine. Like, I remember we talked about something years ago. But I was saying that like, don't expect these games for at least like 2-3 years.
Again, we're talking. This is the same thing with Starfield, and maybe this is why you don't want to hype up something too much. Like the most successful critically successful game they've had was Hi-Fi Rush, which had no lead up.
Is that the highest rated Xbox exclusive?
I mean, but just by
like for the Series X.
I'm just saying, based off perception, maybe use recency bias, but okay, I'll say one of the most successful games they've had in recent memory was Hi-Fi Rush critically, and that game just shadow dropped. So I think what might be happening, and this might be, he might not have said anything to this regard, but at least what I'm speculating is that there may or may not be games in the pipeline. I don't think that they want to talk about them. I think that they were pigeonholed into talking about Starfield because Bethesda announced Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 prior to the acquisition, so the cat was already out of the bag. I just don't think they want to talk about games too soon anymore. Now that's speculation to me. Again, we're going to watch the article and see if he's kind of hinted at anything or outright said anything. But that's what I think. But before we wrap this up, I did want RJ reminded me of the other thing that I said. I should just be like, not an insider because I can't do all that homework, but I should be like one of like the dudes like talking about like, I mean, I am one of them, but I should be bigger. Because
he by himself should be bigger, not us. Him, he should be bigger. I'm
the one dropping all this knowledge. What you were talking about of oh shit, no, I forgot.
It's all right.
Super brain.
No, I got it. I got you. About the strategy of releasing games on all their consoles and like trying to.
Yes. So again, something I've been talking about since Xbox Series X was released. One of the first things we talked about their kind of thing about releasing on all consoles. And I said way back when that it's fine if they do that for the first couple years. It is going to hold them back if they continue to do it.
Like it's normal and expected in the first couple years.
It's an expected thing, yeah,
no
and
one
that's
has
fine
problem with that.
But it's going to hold back the technology if they continue to do it throughout the lifespan of both consoles, which is what they said they were going to do. And I was like, that is not going to end well And what do you know?
I think it was most. I remember talking about it back when Microsoft Flight Simulator was released, which I think might have been 2020,
That's when we really got into it.
2021 when we really started
Because
getting
that
heavy.
was the first game that they didn't do it
Yes, and then we were like, "Well, what else really is there for you, David?" Because we were like, "David, what do you really have to play on?"
And I played it, and although I
game
played
was
it for
great.
like
That game was great.
2 days, it was awesome.
It was great. You finally got to
and
see
then
the
I was
power.
like, but it's not my game.
It's not. It's not many people's game. I mean, it's more of a.
I was like, hey, you turn this into Ace Combat? I'm fucking on
It's
this
more of
shit.
a curiosity than anything. But it got to show you the power of the system. You finally got to see.
And no game since has looked anywhere close.
Or
had anywhere close. I literally, and we said this back when the game came out, I flew by my GameStop that I was working at in Lubbock, Texas. I parked my fucking biplane right in the parking lot. And like, that pixelated ass GameStop sign ripped off of Google Maps is my fucking store, which was the coolest shit ever. I was like, if I was having a gunfight out in front of this store right now, that would be dope. I'd be like, that needs to happen. So anyway,
well, it's not just how good it looked, right? It's also like you could definitely see it was actually using the all that under the guts hardware, right?
Yeah.
Which is what I talk about, what I expect from next gen. It's not necessarily the graphic fidelity. It's like details,
what it can do.
Details, right?
Yeah.
Just the stuff that you would never think a game could do, and it does it. So you like, I've seen gameplay of it.
I found my middle school, Carbonado Middle School, which is a fucking needle and haystack in Washington. I fucking found that shit.
I'm not talking about finding things on Google Maps, bro. I'm talking about like how it can render so much at any given time.
And the fact that if that was on an Xbox One, it would literally
it probably would
it would take out a little seppuku knife and just fucking.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do this. So okay, on the OG,
and then your TV would take out a katana and just fucking chop its head off.
On an OG Xbox,
like it's a disgrace.
On an OG Xbox, yes, it'd probably blow it up. On the Xbox Elite, it probably would run like at 10 frames a second. Like barely. Like it probably would barely run and be on potato mode the whole time. Because like even the Elite, which is a pretty good upgrade from the original Xbox One, I'm even that. There's no way. Like I don't know how well it's run on the Xbox Series S. I can't speak to that, but
I don't think it plays on it.
Really? Well,
no, I don't think so.
I think everyone's been doing.
I think it was Series X only.
Wow. But
I'm pretty sure
it was just like that was like how it could just render so many like important buildings accurately. Like you go to New York and it just renders everything what you think is supposed to be like pretty accurately, if not absolutely accurately, and like without popping, without muddy textures. And you go across the world, see how all that's done, recreated like really, really well. And you're like, wow, you can tell the processor is really getting pushed. That's what I'm talking about with next gen.
It can play on the Series S.
Okay, cool.
So probably because of the SSD.
Yeah, because it still has one, so I'm sure it could. Maybe not as maybe high fidelity, but I'm sure it can run it well. But that's what I'm talking about with like next gen stuff, right? Like all these like little like particle effects or like little like when you break a little box or something, like every little piece is there and all these little things.
Individually rendered, individually.
Yeah, like everything
individual physics. And so like if you break a box one time, the next time you break a box, it might not shatter the same way.
Or like if a leaf falls, it actually is individually from the ground. It doesn't just
like you could catch it on your gun.
It's not like
that's dope.
It's not
if you're like imagine you're sniping, right? Like you got a lace perfectly still, and this like leaf just like falls on your gun and it just stays there on your gun.
Something like that, right? Which I'm sure some games could do. Yeah, I'm sure maybe some games have done that with Unreal 5. I don't know. But like that's what we're talking about. But Xbox doesn't
Unreal 5 is ridiculous.
Xbox doesn't have that besides Flight Simulator. So we were talking about it then. And
it hasn't done shit.
It hasn't even put out an Xbox Series exclusive or like maybe a game that really looks so much better on the Series X. Like because I know they all come up the same, but like I don't know, they don't seem to do much better. if so, like the Xbox OG versions look pretty good too. So you're like, oh, is it really taking
Yeah,
that much
because
advantage of
again,
it?
they're trying not to instantly melt an Xbox One.
Well, here's the thing. No,
Like,
here's the thing. Because a lot of games that come out for PS4, PS5, so even Ragnarok just last October came out for both, and it didn't blow up a PS4. At least not that I know of. But I will say there are more games though that are just for the next for next gen.
yeah,
Or
for just
at least
PlayStation
on
5,
the PlayStation side, it's just for PS5. But on the Xbox, has to be for everything. But I have seen examples where like it is just for the PS5. Whereas, like for instance, Tekken 8's coming out, right? That is a next gen only game. But I don't know what that means. That for like Xbox side, will there be an OG Xbox version if they're still keeping that mandate? But I know on PlayStation side, it is a PS5 only game. There will not be a PS4 version of it. But anyway, yeah. So he talks
we'll
about
do
that
our
too.
homework.
We'll come back
We'll do
next
our
week.
homework
We'll come back next
next
week with more to talk on it.
I'm not in school anymore, so I don't mind doing homework for this.
Yes,
I don't have to do homework for school.
He can watch his Uncle Phil be sad for 40 minutes. And I will watch it too. I will not laugh, I promise, because it's very sad. And here's the thing: I don't care about console wars anymore. I'm too old for that shit. So like, I just want there to be competition. I actually don't want Xbox to get out of the hardware race because Sony and Nintendo's not a competitor to Sony or Microsoft. They've never been. They never will be. They're totally different ecosystems. I do not want Sony by itself. I don't. Because the last time we had a sole console developer, we almost crashed the entire fucking industry. And that was the Atari. Well, there were other competitors, but they did not matter. They did not matter. It was essentially Atari. And the last time we had that, they fucking crashed the industry. We'll almost ruin it entirely.
I think it was more that they were putting out shovelware titles for
because they could. Because they could. No one was going to stop them. There was no competition. They could do shit. They could put out shit. So I don't want Sony with that kind of power. I really don't, and I am a Sony fan.
But we'll talk about that later. I have ideas on what would happen. Hey, we'll pre-plan. I'm gonna pre-plan next week's episode entirely. Next week, we will talk about, after we've done our homework, we will talk about the Phil Spencer interview in full with actual fucking, like we're actual podcast that actually knows what the fuck you're talking about. And we will talk about what a future of Microsoft not making consoles might look like. I have some ideas. I'm sure RJ has some counter points to my ideas.
I don't.
And reactions.
I have reactions, but I don't have opinions. I've never thought of that universe. So,
but I have some ideas, and I think I know if that's their plan. I think I know what they're going to do.
The 4D chess never ends with David. But yes, we will end this podcast here this week, guys. Thank you for joining us. I will put a link to the video. I'll find a video. I don't know if IGN has one or GameSpot, like an official website, has one. But I'll find one, put it in the description if you want to watch it. And if I can't, I'll put an article link instead for something if you guys want to, if you're interested. So with that, guys,
link in the dibbly-doo below.
Yes, as the kids say. Yes, link in the dibbly-doobly-doo below.
Dibbly-doo below.
We'll see you guys on the next week or sometime next week. Goodbye, guys.
Bye, guys.